In the UK, there's this really strange and dangerous situation where a person's basic safety is in direct conflict with the law. We're talking about sex work. So how on earth did we get to a point where simply trying to stay safe could actually be a crime? And what are the possible ways forward? Let's get into it.
To really understand what's at stake, let's go to the streets of Bristol after dark. On any given night, you might find as many as 140 women here. For them, this is their workplace, but it's one that's hidden in the shadows and filled with incredible risk.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Working in the shadows means you're working without all the basic protections that most of us just take for granted. It means your vulnerability is sky high.
But even in that darkness, there are these incredible points of light. There's a charity called 125 that runs its whole operation from a mobile van. They go right to where the women are, and they're offering so much more than just supplies. They're giving out food, hot drinks, condoms, but also a place to charge a phone, get help to escape violence, or just have a moment of peace. It's an absolute lifeline.
So you have to ask, what's driving all of this? Why is this happening now? Well, the thing is, what's happening on the streets isn't taking place in a vacuum. The cost of living crisis is having a huge impact.
And that really is the key question that charities all over the country are trying to answer. They're seeing this undeniable link between rising financial hardship and more women entering the industry, many for the very first time. And if you want hard evidence, just look at this number. That same charity, 125, has seen demand for what they do shoot up by 76% in just 2 years. That figure tells you everything you need to know about the growing desperation people are feeling. Now, it's so important to understand this. The term sex worker doesn't describe just one single experience. The reality is this huge spectrum. As you can see, for some women, it is an absolute last resort because of poverty. For others, they're victims of trafficking and exploitation. And yes, for some, it is an active choice. And you really can't have this debate without understanding that complexity.
Okay, so now let's talk about the law itself, because this is where things get truly bizarre and contradictory. The way the UK's laws are set up right now creates a dangerous paradox that puts these women's safety at risk.
Just take a look at this. It lays out the core problem perfectly. The act of selling sexual services is, believe it or not, legal in the UK. But soliciting for business in public, that's illegal. And brothel keeping, which sounds dramatic but can be as simple as two friends working out of the same apartment for safety, is also illegal. So the law pretty much forces women to work alone.
And listen to how Audrey, a sex worker from Bristol, describes it. Her words just perfectly capture the impossible choice this mess of laws creates. Every single day, she has to ask herself, do I break the law to be safe, or do I follow the law and put myself in incredible danger?
I mean, think about how absurd this gets. Audrey explains that if she drives a friend to a booking, something she would only do to make sure that friend gets home safely, she is technically committing a crime. The law literally criminalizes looking out for each other.
So, with a situation this broken, it's no surprise that people are demanding change. The problem is, nobody can agree on how to fix it. Instead, you've got two major competing ideas on how to solve this and make sex work safer.
Okay, first, a quick clarification, because this word is key. We're talking about decriminalization. And as it says here, that just means removing the criminal penalties. It's not the same thing as legalization, which would mean the government gets involved with things like licensing and regulation. It's a really important difference.
So this brings us to the two main models for reform. On one side, you have full decriminalization. The argument here is that it would allow sex workers to work together safely and, crucially, report violent crimes to the police without fearing they'll be arrested themselves. On the other side, you have a model that targets the buyers. Sometimes it's called the Nordic model. Here, the idea is to criminalize buying sex but not selling it. The goal is to shrink demand and hopefully reduce exploitation.
And if you want a perfect example of why so many people are pushing for decriminalization, look no further than this. Right now, police can give out something called a prostitute caution. It doesn't require any actual evidence of a crime, just an officer's suspicion. And get this, it stays on your record until you're 100 years old. It creates this massive barrier if you ever want to leave the industry and find another job.
We have to remember this isn't just some theoretical debate for lawmakers and activists. While they argue over these different models, there are real people caught right in the middle, trying to navigate these dangers every single day.
And the voices against decriminalization are powerful, often coming from survivors of the industry. Their argument is that the act of selling sex is inherently unsafe, inherently exploitative. For them, it doesn't matter if you change the law, because that doesn't change the danger that can happen behind a closed door.
But current sex workers push back hard against that. They argue that if you target the buyers, you don't actually get rid of sex work. You just hide it. You force it further into the shadows, making clients secretive and making workers even more isolated and more vulnerable than they already are.
And so, that's where we're left, with this huge, unresolved question. When the law itself puts people's safety at risk, what is the right solution? There are no easy answers here, just a critical, ongoing debate where people's lives literally hang in the balance.